today we're here as a group from the MSM program, and we're going to be discussing with Mr. Ramdeen on real life experiences in marketing. And our team is going to pose questions, and we're going to talk about how you deal with different aspects and facets of your business, what got you into marketing, why marketing, and questions along that. Why marketing? Why this background? Why this field?
Okay, I got into marketing as a second choice.
Okay.
When I studied, I was heading towards HR.
Okay, interesting.
And when I got back from university, I discovered that the HR manager took care of two things, or mainly took care of two things in a company.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure that the NIS was paid up and that the sports day and Christmas party was well organized. And that wasn't sexy enough for me. So I wanted to seriously have more influence, and that's I'm going back, and I'll date myself, I'm going back more than 30 years there. Just telling you my Paul started race.
Wow.
It's an exciting field, and I have been lucky to work with some big brands. The thing marketing people love is to spend money. We are very good at it. And I had access to very large budgets.
Right.
But the things that we are not very good at is accounting for the money spent. And I think that is an area that we could improve considerably. Linking of expenditure to outcomes is something that I think the field could benefit.
What is the most exciting or interesting aspect of your job?
The most exciting aspect of my job is the notion that you could take two strangers and bring them together. The strangers are, on the one hand, the consumer or the customer, and on the other hand, a product, a service, a project, a brand. And of course, we know that brands very often are not strangers, so that they're already established. But I just use that metaphorically. But even if they are known, how do you bring them even closer? 2013, there couldn't be a more exciting time to be in marketing and to be in business. It is just so much opportunity.
Yes.
Because once upon a time, your market was defined as your geographical space.
Right.
And now it's literally the world.
Best-selling product, the best.
By far, advertising is still king.
Okay.
What we call advertising is the traditional press, radio, TV, billboard, printing, the usual stuff that we've known for the last 100 years. Right. Of recent vintage is a new kid in town called digital that has come along.
Right.
Made up in Trinidad primarily of two areas. Social media.
Yes.
And mobile communications.
Right.
But that is still minuscule.
Really?
Not just for Pepper, but I would dare guess also for the market.
Okay.
In fact, where digital is even developed in developed markets, it's still, according to what I read, only holding 15% or so of the pie.
Okay.
So that traditional advertising is long from dying.
Okay.
The challenge is to integrate the two, as well as other elements in the communications to optimize outcomes. And ultimately, the word that comes to mind is relevance.
Yes.
To be relevant to the target.
Okay.
So if you are targeting a 65-year-old with your product or project, it may be a little bit different to how you would approach it if you're targeting a 15-year-old.
Current services, have you had any reason to discontinue any service since you've started?
I would say more a question of adding or emphasizing. So for example, we spotted the digital train coming
Okay.
And about 4 years ago, we hired someone when others, other agencies didn't see the need to invest there. But it has given us a footprint
Right.
that's disproportionate to our size and to our sales, so that people think that we are bigger than we are.
So you have full interaction with
Correct.
the
And we do it primarily through our blogs,
yes.
and through Facebook, that kind of thing.
I guess it's important now because everybody has that ability to access information and they
Yeah.
want that access.
Yeah. But I want to disagree with you a little bit going back about the appealing to the 60-something-year-olds and digital. My parents are in their 60s and they are texting, they're on Facebook, they're on WhatsApp, they're savvier than me.
Wonderful point.
They're using acronyms and I'm like,
Absolutely.
what do you mean? Hello?
You're not supposed to know that.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I'll give you one that we have actually introduced and one that we are thinking of introducing.
Okay.
And once upon a time, companies never talked about what they're thinking of introducing because they don't want other people to know.
Yes.
What I subscribe to is that life now and marketing and business and everything you do is about sharing.
Yeah.
I share shamelessly. And I will tell you what we plan to do, and because it's going on YouTube, you know, all our competitors will see it, and we will love them for it. In fact, I might send them a note Monday. So the first thing, one of the things we've been paying a bit more attention to than agencies would normally do is events. So the fancy term for it is brand activation.
Okay.
So it's any one-on-one expression of your brand directly with people.
Okay.
With its customers or potential customers. So in its simplest form, it is that lady in high-low handing out cheese on a biscuit and asking you to try it,
Right.
and encouraging you to go down the aisle and buy it. In its more sophisticated form, maybe not that kind of physical act, but brands going out into the community and not beating over your head with the product, but really engage, get involved in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, this is brought to you by Brand X.
Right.
We set up an events department, and in fact our name when we started, it was not by accident, it's Pepper Advertising and Experiential Marketing.
Right.
Experiential is experience.
Yes.
Very often I see in the papers Pepper Advertising and Experimental Marketing. So we are experimenting with people's money. So, and in terms of the new, hot off the press, we're looking at having specific services in the area of photography. As it is now, even when I first got into advertising, most of photography was outsourced.
Yeah.
So in those days, you would pick up the phone and say, Mr. Photographer, you have the best eye in the world, you have all the equipment, come and shoot this product or this person, and it ends up in an ad. Now there are online sources. So that person, like the Kodak camera, has gone out of business, the photographer. Because we are all snatching, literally snatching, because it's speed, images online. You pay for it, you give them their $25 US or $100 US or whatever, and you have permission to use it. We are actively looking at possibly bringing that in-house, because we feel there's an opportunity to differentiate ourselves by not just having pictures of, because if you look at the sections, it says Black American, Black, Indo, Asian. You know, we want to take a box mark Trinidadian or Tobagonian.
Okay.
And maybe if we're the only ones doing it, it might help us a little bit and help our clients ultimately. So that would be an example of something that we have started, events, and one that we're thinking of starting in terms of our product portfolio. The key with it is diversification.
Agreed.
Trinidad and Tobago, since before each of you have been born, has been talking about diversification, and we have not been walking. We're just talking.
Yeah.
So we still largely rely mainly on oil, 80% of our GDP also. And we recognize, we are trying to find other streams. That's why I thought it was interesting that your business was so diversified. On one hand, I applaud that, but on the other hand, I wonder if it is too diversified, that there should be things that are probably more complementary, so that the skill sets could be leveraged.
I think the main reason we're at that stage is because of our location.
Right.
We're located in San Grande. So we service that section of Trinidad, Togo, Matlock, Rio Claro, all those people. We get people from so far away coming to us. And now that we offer so many services, people come and ask us for sometimes the most ridiculous things that we don't offer. And they expect that we do it because we do so many things already. And they're like, well, why don't you do this?
Right.
You need this done. But it is at this stage where it's getting complicated, so we will have to differentiate it and separate it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think that's the stage where we'll get. Where we'll
But you probably could also benefit from learning to say no.
Yeah.
So sales is like the most vital factor of an organization. It brings in the revenue, it brings pays bills. And forecasting sales can be considered a science and art. How do you go about doing your sales forecast? How is it done in your industry?
Okay, well, before I talk about my industry, let me give you a little peep into some industries like Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Bear, and Carib and Stag, and some places around the road. And I don't know if there's somebody sitting somewhere, but people tend to look at it in a room somewhere figuring out what's the best way.
Yeah.
But people tend to look at the prior year and then add a double digit to it. That's just kind of like a magic number.
Yeah.
And I think that's how mostly it's done.
Right.
And we do it that way as well.
Okay.
I think part of the reason is, well, it's historical, I guess, your last year plus.
Plus, right. Plus what you want to achieve, your budget, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think part of the reason for it is you have inflation, and I think it's running in Trinidad now at what, 5 or 6%?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Right. So if you are not growing by 5 or 6%, you are actually declining.
Yeah.
So before you start, you have to get your 5 or 6%.
Exactly.
So if you said you were 10, you were in fact growing would be 4%.
Right.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
So to get back to your question, we tend to look at historical prior year,
Right.
and then we go for double digit.
Okay.
Definitely. It might be 10, it might be 15.
Right. So it's a conventional way of forecasting.
Yeah, and it's arbitrary. I think it's arbitrary. I think it's
sometimes
arbitrary.
you even surpass what your forecasting budget was, that kind of.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is that we started to, we look at having set it, then you have to say how you're going to get it.
Achieve, yeah.
So it's going to come from existing clients.
Yeah.
And then it's also going to come from new business.
Yes.
And we would do a gap analysis of what kind of businesses we don't have. We might say, well, we don't have a supermarket representing, which, by the way, we don't have a supermarket.
Let's get on that team.
Yeah. So if anybody out there is hearing this, give us a call. So we look at the gaps in our business. We also look at where we are exposed, where we feel, you know what, we had a rough year, we made an error with something last year, maybe they're thinking of moving from us because they're not happy with us, or whatever.
So it's like a little SWOT analysis you do of where you are.
Of probably all your clients.
Right. So what do you do in a case where, you have a client that you perceive has not been too happy with your services? What do you do to ensure that you keep that client working?
Give them some love quick. That's the short answer.
Yeah.
You feel it.
Yeah.
You feel it. You know when things aren't what they should be.
Right.
But really, it is hopefully getting to where that doesn't happen.
Right.
So giving them the
Like
love.
your opening hours, is it affected by what did you do, like advertising and marketing? Your customers are dynamic, they're quite different. Do you have opening hours to suit what your clients need?
Yes, we have very, very strict opening hours. We work 24 hours a day. Yeah, no, we and you would, I think that's one of the benefits of this company actually, because we started 8 years ago, but 8 years isn't a lifetime compared to the other guys who some are around 50 years and 25 years. When you've just started, maybe you'll wear off. But when you've just started and 8 years it hasn't, we tend to have a kind of passion,
Right.
a kind of an owner-operated spirit.
Right.
And we also manage to duplicate that with people who are not the owners.
Okay.
You know, because they see what the owner's doing.
So the culture that you've
They see a little bit of the culture, right? Now, I have to tell you that most times clients don't, well, when we have a heavy, don't call on you beyond working hours.
Right.
So, but if they did, we are there.
Location is key.
Yeah.
All right. Marketing 101 teaches about the 4 P's: price, product, promotion, and place. For your business, so how did you decide on your location?
I uncharacteristically follow the rest. The 15 out of the 16 agencies, or maybe all, are in a circle
Right.
in Port of Spain.
Okay.
I think there's 2 reasons. Perception is reality.
Okay.
If you were in Woodbrook and Newtown and St. Clair,
Like that pronunciation.
then you're probably more likely to be of quality
Right.
in terms of a business.
Right.
And now I'm not going to call it the other place. Then I'm going to get in trouble. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That said, because of Skype and GoToMeeting
Yeah.
and BBM and all kind of M, I think it is possible to be an agency in Santa Cruz
Okay.
and still be
Viable.
relevant. Taken together with the fact that clients seldom come to agencies, from my experience. They come,
Right.
but how often they come, you know, so that the circle of Port of Spain may be
Well,
operating.
with that being said, if given the opportunity to relocate, would you do it? Where and why?
We're giving you all a lot of news today. We actually are relocating.
Really interesting.
1 block away to Picton.
So this is about space, not so much in reaching your market, but about like a bigger space.
It is about being a rent buster. Stop paying rent.
Yes,
Yes.
I know.
Start paying a mortgage.
Yes.
Yes.
So I've just made an announcement in case you all didn't spot it.
Any business, it's essential that you have cost-effective suppliers. I mean, you need to have your input.
Yeah.
So how do you go about finding your suppliers?
Well, I think the first thing in terms of cost-effective, before cost-effective, is trust.
Right.
You want to be sure suppliers are reliable. You want to be sure that they are ethical. You want to be sure that they are legal. And you want to be sure that they're doing stuff that is right. Now, this is not the Vatican, so I don't want to give you the impression that we're just holy people. But so that's the first thing. And then, of course, you must also be competitive in terms of your price. In my own situation, and getting back to the same trusting, I work with people who I trust, and I have worked with many. So that they tend to get our business. Printers, t-shirt supplier, whoever. People who, right? In terms of the media, which is a supplier, what drives that decision, apart from relationships, is their audience, their proven audience. But this is not a romantic exercise. This is about ROI.
Yes.
And the only measure, we are not good in Trinidad at measuring, but we have some measures of people of different media audience. So we follow that as best we can in terms of the market facts and opinions media track study, as well as our own sense, because we have some brains of the market.
Yes.
Because you can't just give it out to the research. You also have to have your own inputs and your own opinion. And of course, the client also has an opinion in terms of what they think, where they think.
Have you ever considered exporting the pepper brand? And have you done any work for, or do you have regional or international clients?
Yes, we actually currently doing some work for a company in Antigua. But before I go there, in terms of us going outside, I think the key is having the capacity,
Right.
the ability to service any client, whether they're in Port Spain or in Montego Bay.
Right.
Right. I think it is about capacity, and capacity includes not just physical bodies, but understanding the place that you're seeking to serve,
Right.
because it's not homogeneous.
Yeah,
Right.
culture and so on.
So you want to be careful that you don't extend yourselves, and you have not earned the right
Go there.
to go there.
Right.
So if in instances where we go outside of Trinidad, it is because we feel the nature of the exercise. It is that we've earned the right. You know, we have the resources and the knowledge and the market knowledge to do it. So in that instance, it is a consultancy exercise
Right.
as opposed to an advertising exercise.
Okay.
And there we are applying the principles of marketing and that kind of thing to help them think through
Let's
them.
talk a little bit about pricing.
Yeah.
Right. And pricing of product or service is simply the tangible and intangible assets of the product or service, and it equates the value for cash. And it's
Well put.
it is not unassuming. So I mean, we have to consider cost. We have to consider competition, quality, the brand, the availability, and all of these little intrinsic values that goes into a price. How do you decide or formulate your pricing structure?
Again, we're driven by the market,
Okay.
and what the market will pay.
Okay.
We don't sell a physical product mostly. They turn into a physical product in terms of an ad, a physical press ad.
Right.
That's a full page ad. But before that, there was a abstract, intangible
Yes, intangible.
things that went into it
Right.
in terms of thinking through what that ad should say, and how it fitted with the positioning of the brand and so on and so on.
Right.
Full page ad, depending on the complexity, depending on if it is black and white versus color,
Right.
depending on if it has images in it versus no images, and so on, could run from $2,500 to $5,000 or $6,000, depending on all the variables.
Right.
If you had to have photography done,
That's an additional.
you have to get a model, but
Right.
that
Yeah.
may be
Yeah.
why it went to 6,000.
Right.
You have to get a model, you have to find a location, you have to get a photographer,
Right.
and compare that with the one that doesn't have any photograph.
Right.
So those would be the kinds of parameters and the kinds of considerations that we take
Okay.
in pricing our product. Ultimately, you have to be sure, just like you have to be sure that when you go to buy that 2-piece and fries that you're happy with paying $23 or whatever it is,
Right.
that the client is happy paying whatever they're paying because they believe that based on what you have done,
Right.
that the price is a fair one.
Right.
So given that your pricing is fundamentally market driven, does
Yeah.
the actions of your competitors affect your pricing directly?
Well, unlike us knowing what your brand of peas and carrots costs in Hilo, and you could see
Yeah.
in our business it's not like that.
Right.
So you don't have that degree of transparency.
Right.
So you don't really every Monday morning, say, well, those boys down the road charging. In fact, you don't even know what they're charging.
Right.
They might be charging twice what you charge, half of what you're charging. You just kind of go from what you know. I as well worked mostly on the client side, so I know what I used to pay.
Right.
Not really. Outside of media, and it's not so much a markup as the media gives you a commission. The client doesn't. So you're the client, you're spending $100 to do a campaign. you give me the $100 and we put it in the media for you, radio, press, TV, and the media gives us back $15 for bringing
That client.
that $100 of business to them, right? In theory, if the client went directly to the media, it will cost them the same $100.
Right.
You with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is really there should be no reason for the client to go directly to the
Right.
media.
Okay.
But note I said, in theory.
So let's say you have a new product,
Mm-hmm.
and you're taking into consideration it's not only new to Pepper, it's new to the market. No other, the boys down the road don't know about it, no one knows about it, and you're bringing it in. How would you go about setting a price on something like that? Where would you start? Because there's no historical data to run from. I mean, it may be similar to some of the current products or services that you may offer. You may be able to start somewhere, but where would you start? How would you go about it?
Well, let me go back to my quick service restaurant experience and talk about gyros. Before gyros came, they didn't have no gyro.
Right.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think what I would do if I was a gyro guy, what they probably did is said, what is a gyro compared to in terms of a eating occasion?
Right.
And I might start to say, you know what, I think it compared to a roti.
Okay.
I think it compared to a 2-piece and fries.
Right.
So you would then put it into a block of parallel or comparable occasion.
Right.
So I would guess then that the gyro would have to be around $25.
Right.
Because a Dalbury chicken roti by Dobson's is $25.
Right.
And because a 2-piece and fries is 23 or whatever it is. So although you may not have the specific product, you then have to see what it is going to be.
Right. Well, I'm going to take you away and outside from Pepper a little bit, back into your former life as an advertiser.
Former life.
Right? And typically with new products and services, as it enters the market, it's not too long before the competition starts to copy your prototype on what you do, and sometimes even improve on what you're doing, right? So at the end of the day, it comes down to survival for the fittest, right? It comes down to what's going to happen to my product. We talk about things like price wars, market saturation, that sort of thing, and decline even in the product on the market. And with that being said, at the end of the day, we marketers and businesses have to keep their products at a price that at cost operational, so it will remain at a cost where it could be operational. And with that, with saying all of this, could you tell us about your role in the price war back in the early 90s with Carib and Stag, and how it was initiated and the decisions that you took, and the outcome in terms of what was best at the time for not only the brand but for the employees and for the persons involved, and even for you as the head.
Right. Yeah, well, that's that really was a sweet time in terms of some crazy stuff that we did.
Yeah.
But products essentially sell what we could, the fancy name for it is equity.
Yes.
You sell a perceived value. There is a vendor on Western Main Road that my wife stops at to get vegetables. And I don't know why she goes there. In particular, I suspect is that he's given so much talk. He always given some rhyme and a cheap rhyme, but it's a rhyme. He's make it experiential.
Right.
So that's how he has managed to differentiate himself.
Right.
He always talking and giving some little corny joke. And going back to the Stag is that at the time, the share was as follows: 90% Carib. The other two split between Heineken and Stag.
Right.
6 for one and 4 for the other. I can't remember which one was 6 and which one was 4. But
Right.
basically,
That was what it was.
they basically had Stag in particular had very, very little equity. People didn't see the value. In fact, for many, it was not even an alternative.
Okay.
I mean, I remember people saying, you know, that's all you have? You don't have beer? I mean, it was like, to go to work, you know, if you weren't thick skin, you would say, well, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
So, having recognized that, you know, and getting back to the 4 Ps, price, product, place, promotions, you have zero reputation, so the promotions piece is a mess. And Stag at the time and over the years prior to when I was there had changed its positioning and its advertising so much to try to find something,
Yeah.
and it didn't.
Right.
So the option wasn't there in terms of the promotions. Distribution was not really an issue. I mean, where it was not available is where it wasn't wanted, which was most places.
Right.
So you had a truck and you had people going to say how many stag you want,
Right.
and not many would leave the truck. So we left with the product, the physical product. People think it was not even beer.
Right.
It was in a short bottle, which people didn't associate with beer. Beer came in a tall, long neck. So I mean, everything was against this thing. So the last piece you had was price.
Price. And that was your weapon.
That was you had no other basis
Right.
To fight.
to fight and to create some kind of relationship.
Right.
So we basically offered the product at a price to match how it was perceived,
Really?
Cheap.
which was basically cheap.
Interesting.
And we put it on the label, the recession fighter.
Right. Yes.
I mean, everything you read in a textbook about beer and that kind of thing is about its badge value and
Right.
personality, and it says who you are. And we said, you are a recession
Recession
fighter.
fighter.
But we couldn't live there forever.
Right.
And having gotten people into the party on price,
Right.
we then started to give the brand a personality,
Right.
to transfer them from buying us for price
Right.
to buying us
For
for
quality.
not so much quality, but for the
Product.
personality that
Right.
it represented.
Right.
And what that personality was, we wanted to be everything that Carib was not.
Okay.
So if you wanted to ask us what we did, we looked and see what Carib was doing and said we would not do that.
Okay.
So Carib was everywhere. They were in horse racing, they were in lawn tennis, they were in all fours, they were in football, cricket,
Right.
and we started to pick things that were out of their radar and focus only on that. So for
Right.
example, wind ball cricket.
Okay.
You know, we were the first ones to do a national wind ball cricket team.
Right.
We also segmented the market in terms of Afro-Trinidad and Indo-Trinidad, because we know that they had different
Right.
lifestyles,
Right.
right? You're more likely to see Afro-Trinidad by maracas and Indo-Trinidad at Cora,
Right.
as a for example.
Right.
Not that Indo-Trinidad won't go to maracas too and Afro won't go
Yeah.
to Cora, but in terms of what you would associate.
Right.
So the Stag Sad Sammelan, which was a Indian orchestration competition,
Okay.
the first one.
Right.
I don't know if they had one before, but
Yeah.
we certainly claimed it. And I mean, it was like
Right.
all this a lot of hard work going in the community,
Behind the
Yes.
scenes.
behind the scenes, on the ground.
Right.
And we did that consistently. And Carib didn't know what hit them.
Right.
What they got on TV is said, very typical, not of just of Carib, any brand that had 90% would say. They went on TV and say, for 50%, 50 cents less, I will drink that. That's what they said on TV. And the fellow on the other side of the screen said, yes. Right? You follow?
Yes.
Because they said, well, I'm Carib, what are you talking about? This little fella here, come along. That's when we were $2.50
Right.
and they were $3.
Right.
Well, after we started taking endless share,
Right.
guess what?
They started.
They came down to
They
the
followed.
250.
So it
Right.
goes to 199.
So they moved, so then we moved it. When they moved, they virtually got back almost all of what they had lost. So
Right.
but not all.
Right.
And so it showed again the power of brands.
Right.
Because once they had negated our advantage, then people were reminded, well, this is carrot.
Yes.
It's carrot country.
Yes.
We had invested so much in this. They had invested so much in that brand that all they needed to was address that price thing, right? When Stag moved to the tall bottle, I think that really, and I wasn't there, so I have nothing to do with that, but that really was another moment that caused them to
So, we
move
can
again.
check out that advertising.
Well, you see how excited I am?
Yes. We noted from the information on your site that you facilitate a diversity of clients, retail, financial,
Yeah.
and even including institutional at the Lockjack.
Yeah.
So,
We found out that logo. Where is it?
yes, so that's it.
Oh, there.
What
There.
if? Why not?
So you see?
Yes.
Oh, you're gonna see me shoot. You see the A, right? The altar? You never
Yes.
saw that.
Yes.
You see the L and the J?
I'm seeing the
L.
Oh,
and
yes,
J.
and the G is the other side. Wow.
Right. And you know why they liked it? They liked that because it was more proprietary.
Okay.
Anybody could put a lion and a tiger and a
Yeah.
bird, but not everybody have the initials A, L, J.
Right.
Right? Now, even if you didn't see the ALG, you know, it's still
Symbol.
it's still a way of differentiating your symbol. This is what we have there. And then there's a little story, there's a dot in the middle there, and that's a road, and somebody's walking down the road, and the horizon, you know, all that.
Right.
So how do you determine your target market?
How do we determine the target market? Well, most times the client has a target market, and they tend to do it in physical ways, so socioeconomic, age, income,
Gender.
sex, gender, race, those kinds of things. We like to convert that into what we call a conceptual target.
Okay.
So rather than those things, we're trying to get at people's mindset and their, you know, some of their psychographics.
Okay.
So for example, the one I like, some that well, we have done some, but we talk about some international brands. So Holiday Inn Express, which is the hotel chain, but it's Express. So it's a different brand to Holiday Inn.
Right.
Holiday Inn Express, their conceptual target are called road warriors.
Okay.
So that's the guy who's on the road. He's spending a day there or two, and he's going to leave 6 or 7 in the morning because he has to travel far and hit several places. So what does he need, right, or she? The reason we say road warrior, because you could almost see the person by the name. You with me?
Yeah.
Right.
So you know that you have to have a breakfast on the go rather than
So, yeah.
sit on breakfast. They come in, they clap, you know, they want it quickly. They want internet and other stuff that you know, they don't need the fancy concierge.
Right.
So you see how the conceptual target. So we
Yeah.
always try to define. In the case of Lockjack, conceptual target would be something. It may be something like the top 5 percenters. You know, that might be one. For a snack, you know, say one of those cheesy, or you might say the mindless munchers. You know, so you see the pack next to them in front of the TV.
Right.
You don't even look at the pack. Put your hand in it
Right.
and they put it. Now a mindless muncher could be 6 years old. Now they'll have it in their hand. They'll have it in front of
Yes.
them. But a mindless muncher could be a 20-year-old, but it could be a 50-year-old too.
Yeah.
And you see the value.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how we we try to define.
I would say this too, and I think we'd all agree, Apple Object definitely has an effective marketing program.
Yes, they do.
They do.
We don't take all the credit for it. we take credit for only the parts that work.
Yeah.
But it works. Through and through it does. They captivated us. They just like,
Yeah. It's a
they
bit
drew us.
different when you get into it,
Yeah.
but they really sell it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I give credit to that to the head of LoveJack, is Professor Carrillo.
Mm-hmm.
He is
He's a brilliant man.
a sharp cookie.
Brilliant man, hands down.
He is a very, very sharp cookie, and I know people are going to say this, I keep the account. But I have said that to him privately, and I've said, so what was the question again?
Alright, and one important discussion in marketing is the cost of retaining existing customers versus finding new ones. We all know the answer to that, right?
Yeah.
But retaining existing customers is not enough to create growth in a business. Which do you find more difficult, finding new customers or keeping existing customers?
Okay, so let me disagree a little bit. Retaining existing customers can give a lot of growth.
Okay.
Let me give you my KFC example. That person standing in front of you can deliver more than the one who you don't have yet. The way they do it is upselling.
Right.
That's the fancy word.
Upselling.
So I came in for 2-piece and fries. But would you have a salad with that?
Yes.
Do you know that we now have a new corn on the cob?
Right.
Have you tried our new cheesecake?
Right.
But even before we go there, the quality of service that you give to them, you don't tell them anything else. But when you wow them, they tell others.
Yes.
So not only do they come back,
Did you
and
come
maybe
back?
come back more frequently than they had planned. So every time when you hear something like that, the cash register is ringing.
Right.
Okay?
Cha-ching.
Yeah, right? So, can't say enough. I'll give you all a quick statistic about the customer decision to return model at quick service restaurants. The information is dated, but I still believe it. 100% is why I go back to 100%. 3 factors add up to 100% in the quick service business. Food is one, experience is the other, customer experience, and value is the third. Food plus experience plus value equal 100%. If I ask you all to write down what each of those different ones are, I guarantee you. In fact, let me ask you, what are they? You go first, and quick.
So it's food.
Yes, give me a percent. Make sure that they're up to 100. If you can't do arithmetic, I'll help you.
The food would be maybe 20%.
Right?
The service is a lot for me. I'd say 40% would be service.
And when you try and answer, not what is for you, well, it could be for you, yes, you're right. Answer for you. 40, and then value will be 40.
Yes.
Next.
That's would be 20 food, 60 experience, and 20
20, 60, 20, 20, 40, 40.
I would say 30 because I need the food and I'm
Right. Right.
I would say about 50 would be my experience,
30, 50,
right? And
and
then
20.
20 would be my value.
Okay, cool. So the correct answer, although there's no correct answer,
Yeah.
that in terms of the 20,000 people that they interviewed,
Right.
so very robust, was 31% food,
Okay.
56% experience,
Right.
and 13% value. So the point is the importance of experience.
Experience.
So much work to do with your existing
customers.
that so very often we're looking to invite new people into the party
Right.
to rough them up.
All right. So as a service company, what types of advertising do you use to promote your business? How does the market know about you? How does potential clients know Pepper exists?
Years ago, I remember saying to a group that Louis Lissing, who was the head of 95.5 radio, was one of the best people I saw who recognized that the media was also a brand.
Right.
they thought that their job was to tell other people about other brands,
Exactly.
but they are also a brand.
Right.
And they've done many things to let people know they are a brand, including putting up billboards and that kind of thing, which you didn't often see. When I listen to the radio program in the morning, I always notice that Tony calls Tony,
Right.
Mr. Whatever they call him, I'm forgetting. They always call him by in a certain way, and it is very, very deliberate,
Right.
because that is how you know you are on that station.
Right.
Getting back to Pepper, our industry have not been good at giving the advice that we give to others, which is that you are brands,
Right.
and you have to position yourself in a certain way. And I think that we recognize that, and we have done some deliberate things for people to know that we exist,
Right.
especially in the area of digital, so that our digital footprint is disproportionate to our size.
Right.
We really are a size 2 shoes, but we have a size 10 footprint.
Right.
If you searched online for advertising agency in Trinidad, invariably we will come up on the first page.
Right.
I assure you,
Yes.
that is not reflective of our share. And that has come about from our website and our blogging,
Right.
and our Facebooking, and us positioning ourselves as experts.
Right.
So that's why you all are here.
Yes, of course.
How do you determine what type of advertising and or marketing will work best for them?
Okay, so I think the first thing is to take a media neutral approach. So when you don't walk through the door and say, well, you're going to do a press ad.
Right.
It has to be, you really have to hear what is so that's a very broad question. You have to hear what are the specifics. If you have one store compared to if you have 25, that will impact where you go.
Right.
If you had one store, then you might do flyers in the neighborhood, and you might do a billboard. You're not going to go on television with a one store,
Right.
as I have seen some people do.
Right.
So the other thing I tell people is make sure that you have the product right or the service right before you tell others, because it is proven consistently that the absolute best form of advertising is not provided by an advertising agency. It's provided by you, word of mouth. So in terms of what are the variables, it would be, the scope of your targets in terms of your sales. If you have a $10 million target, it will be different if you have a $100,000 target. I'm just giving these crazy examples. The geographical scope of your distribution, the resources that you have available, that you feel you have available to put on the table to invest. And you take all that together. And I find, as I've said before, people tend to want to be in the papers too fast.
Right.
Because I don't know if it's ego, I don't think they genuinely feel that will drive awareness, so therefore it will equal sales. But there are so many opportunities now for free advertising.
Facebook
That-
is one of them.
Definitely.
Facebook, and please, Facebook should not be a broadcast medium. It should be an engagement medium.
Right.
That's not to say you don't broadcast as well. But if 9 out of 10 times they hear from you is for broadcast, they will.
So, in your experience over the years,
Yeah.
what promotional efforts have worked best for your clients? And are these methods industry-specific example advertising efforts that works well in the retail industry?
One size doesn't fit all. Impossible to answer that question. But what I would say conceptually you want to do is to differentiate. Be different. And be different not for the sake of being different. Be different while ensuring that you are positioning your brand or your product or your service or your project in such a way that is relevant to customers, right? So you're a supermarket in Gasparillo, What is your difference to all the other supermarkets who were there for 50 years before you? You know, is it the fact that you have a parking lot, something as simple as that?
Okay.
Because nobody else has, you're on a back street, and you know when you come there, your car will be safe and worship. Better yet, I'm going to take the groceries to the cafe.
Right.
It might be something as simple as that, because all the other things I have.
Right.
I have food, I have a cashier,
Right.
I have trolleys, you know.
Right.
So it's about finding the one thing, and a car park may not be important enough. I just use it as an example. Finding the one thing that's important enough that you can lay claim to, right? Our one thing is strategy, right? It is helping brands figure out what their one thing should be. And if they know it already, helping them deliver it through communications. And reminding them that it's not only through communications you deliver your strategy or your positioning. You deliver it through your pricing, you deliver it through your physical product, you deliver it through your distribution, through all the pieces.
And owing to globalization and the role that technology plays in globalization, face-to-face selling is kind of going away because we have the onset of e-marketing, e-trading, e-business, e-commerce, and all the E's. And it's increasingly popular. As chief inspirer at Pepper, how do you instruct or train or even motivate your team to do personal selling?
Well, I think we have far too many emails,
Right.
and anybody who shows up would probably be better off. So notwithstanding that emails and Skype is there and it helps, I think there's nothing like the personal touch. I remember a very, very, very established businessman, I wouldn't call his name because I didn't get his permission, told me a story of traveling to Europe. You call the country because you might figure out the brand. To Europe, to make a case for getting the license or franchise for that particular brand in Trinidad and the Caribbean. And the person said to him, well, you know, two very large corporations have written us, and we've been talking to them on the phone about representing them, and they have a lot of experience. And his response to the guys, I think that's relevant to this discussion, is they wrote, I came.
Right.
Because he would have paid his airfare and he would have gone and sat in front of them. So I think that in all the technology and all the mass, there is a lot of room to stand out by being physically there. And that the technology should really only be a tool that aids productivity.
Right.
It shouldn't be an excuse to be a robot.
Do you offer market research to help?
No. We have clients that, well, I shouldn't say no, we facilitate it. We are not marketing research experts. That's highly specialized in terms of sample size and quantitative analysis and all of that nice stuff. So because we have bought research as clients, we're comfortable working with people, and we could carry on a reasonable conversation and be a part of to add value to our research discussion, but that rightly belongs in other places. So
do you think research would make a difference, like generally in Trinidad, how people would market stuff if we take that approach and do more research?
Absolutely. I think I have a lot of time and credibility and room for intuition and the hunch and the gut feel. So let me not say that's the enemy and the sin, but you must also have data, and it must be fact-based. As a culture, if I'm driving down the road and somebody in St. James tells me somebody just something happened to them, without checking it, you repeat it, and before you know it, is a fact by the time I reach Diego Martin. And not only is a fact, I probably would embellish it a little bit to show that I know. So that, and I think that is what happens as well in terms of how quickly people go from no information to being an expert and saying things
Without data.
without data. Yeah. So, but you know, and it doesn't always have to be the sophisticated 600-person study,
Right.
but you should try to get some data that's beyond your and your grandmother.
So, I know that your agency is a member of advertising agencies of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Other than this membership, do you belong to any other groups? And do you attend industry meetings and conventions?
Yes. Well, yes, we are part of the Advertising Agencies Association, and I think by and large the association has been dormant. But the current executive, I'm not an executive, so I'm not praising myself. The current executive, I think, are doing a good job in terms of trying to shake it up a little bit, and make us more accountable. The Agencies Association actually are the drivers behind the media study that takes place every year, because with every year or every 2 years, without that, I mean, it's a complete guessing game. So that at least gives you, you know, a milepost to say, at this point, this is what people said. And there's controversy every year about what right and what wrong and what, but at least it is some measure of fact. Even if some people think it is not perfect. I think the alternative to that is having nothing. And I don't think that you know, when it's stuck on the two or three, perhaps something that maybe not be perfect. Although we are a small company, we try to get our people to attend as well. So our digital person has attended stuff, and the head of our account service has also, pretty soon one of our creatives is going off to do something, you know, away. I personally find it very stimulating when you go in a room and, you know, in fact that's where the Inspire thing came.
Yeah.
You know, I remember going to a seminar 4 years ago where the guy from Dell was talking, and his title was Director of Conversations. That's why he's come to work. He's a social media guru.
Right.
That everything that's being said about Dell online and in mobile, he must know. And he has a huge team responding, shaping. He is the Director of Conversations. You think when he was studying, or wherever he studied in Harvard, he thought he would end up as a Director of Conversations.
It's just,
You know?
unconventional.
Yeah, I find that so sweet.
Yeah.
I see the value, and then there's a huge university that's available to everyone 24/7, called the internet.
Precisely.
It is like wow. To find yourself a mentor. Belonging to groups is about learning. You know, I go to a major conference at least once a year, and I try to go things that I know nothing of. You know, but you might say that's a lot. But no, so I tended to go to a lot of digital stuff because I am 5.7. You know what's 5.7, right? 57. Right? We started saying that.
Yeah, I think as a group we've all experienced that. I mean, not only as a group Android, but as an entire cohort. When we have to put up discussions, we learn from each other.
Yeah, go on, thief thing from the internet and don't tell it.
No, but you know, we learn from each other's different perspectives.
It inspires.
It's very inspirational. It's
Right.
very, you know. Yeah. Alright, so Dennis, we know that you blog. We've all read most of your posts, quite interesting. And you've used quotes and references to articles and activities happening within the industry. Do you review like any and research industry trends and analysis or any sort of data and apply it to your business? And is it useful if you do?
I do that all the time to try to see. So this idea is still an idea for the photography. You know, I haven't done it yet, but I plan to find another agency who's doing that, to
To
see
benchmark.
see what could inspire us.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with events.
Okay.
You know, we look to see who's doing it and how they're doing it. What are some of the things that they're doing? Follow?
Yes.
And locally as well, not just online, but locally to see what other agencies doing, and how they're doing what they're doing.
So throughout the discussion, we mentioned some of the promotional activities used, digital, the TV, the radio, newspaper. Do you have any other types of promotional activities used for your clients? Other than...
Well, in my head, I have a template. It's there are only 5 things that mankind has invented to reach people, apart from word of mouth. And I'll remind me to tell you something about word of mouth. Advertising, public relations, direct mail, which is not so big in Trinidad. It's huge in
Yes.
States. Sponsorships and events, and digital. So those are what is called marketing drivers.
Right.
So that's what, and under them really have any number of things.
Right.
The one that I mentioned is, the other one, word of mouth, is actually, you would think it's just something that's organic, right?
Yeah.
But go online and Google WOMA, the Word of Mouth Association. They have found ways now to feed and seed word of mouth. You with me?
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 simple examples. In every young people group, they're the influencers. In any group, they're influencers. But if you're talking young people, so there's a party like Coco, somebody this morning, a Juve party, right? You're not in the target, so you don't know anything about it. And you're fasting, so you know nothing about it. But if Shelley Gomes says she's going, then all the other girls go. Shelley Gomes, I made up that name, is the influencer.
Right.
Companies find the Shelley Gomes in their category. Very, they find them, and they then get Shelley Gomes to be an ambassador. You with me?
Yeah.
So if she is seen using a particular shampoo,
It's almost like a loss leader type.
her friend, it's an influencer. It's more like a leader than a loss leader. So that would be one example of how they feed word of mouth. In an alcohol product, an influencer may be the barman. Try this.
Yeah.
So how do we get the barman on our side?
Right.
In such a way that his boss, his owner, is on board. It's not clandestine, it's not coming 1 o'clock in the morning, come to a room. That was an example, influencers. The other example that I could give you is what they say is make your idea shareable.
Right.
So that's where you're using the digital thing.
Which is what you're doing.
So that is what people, that's why you see all those things at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Make it easy. If somebody writes me and say, I think you should check out this link about coffee cups, because I'm in the coffee business. I saw it recently, but I don't put the link. Well, then now I have to go and look for the link, and I call you, I have to put the link,
Right.
press here.
Yeah.
Make it easy, make it shareable. So they have, check it out, WOMA, WOMMA. I actually went to a WOMA convention.
Seriously.
About 4 years ago. That's when it just started.
Right.
I can imagine when
What's going on now,
but I mean,
right?
it must have gone mad by now. So that I would say is probably one of it, and especially for small business people who don't have the checkbook and to hire an expensive agency like Pepper.
You probably define yourself as chief inspirer in providing leadership and inspiration to your team.
Yeah.
Do you encourage team members to participate in marketing and advertising decisions?
Not enough. I would say the chief inspirer is a bit of a lie. I think it's a goal. Because I would imagine, I know sometimes I see people around me talking to me in fear. Yeah, I see it sometimes. Some of it is the traditional, the boss thing, but some of it is something I may be doing wrong. So I recognize that. So that's a huge upside for me as a manager and an owner, and for the company. Because I believe absolutely that openness in any environment is a productive pursuit. That is an attribute, that is a positive attribute to have. It's not just a nice attribute, it delivers. And I think culturally, the anthropologists and so might be able to tell us why, but we're not really open. We can't look somebody in the face. I know I can't. And say, tell you the truth. We dress it up. And we might even not tell you.
And that's why the truth is bad.
Well, that is bad. Worse. Go on. So I know I have a personal challenge with that. I have also worked in Canada, and I have seen the other way. Everyone around the table. And you're sitting down with the owner of a multi-gazillion company, and you're speaking your mind. And you're not doing it in a way to be disrespectful. You're not doing it in a way to show off. Maybe some are. But there is a freedom to do that. That's part of the cause. It's natural. Over here, I don't think it's natural, and that's part of our problem. The supreme leader syndrome. That when you speak to the supreme leader, you speak to them differently than when you speak to your peer, because something they have a different makeup or something. So the chief inspirer thing, I think it's a goal. It's just like our values. You see our values on the wall. So we say we want to be open, and we want to be ethical, and we want to be there, but we're certainly not there. But at least we have said it. And that's the first thing you have to do. And we've written it down. But you have to live it. So what I can say is I rather suspect that with all our warts and carbuncles, we're probably better than or as good as many.
That's important.
But you want to be better. Better for yourself, not just for others.
With all that being said, and you're many years in the industry, have you seen others within the industry make mistakes, or even yourself in terms of couple and you as an individual make mistakes, and how will they?
Yeah. Well, again, going back to our upbringing, we were brought up to believe that failure is the absolute worst thing. The old dunce cap. Well, you know what a dunce cap? Right, long time it had something called a dunce cap. The notion of a dunce cap, that when you wear dunce, you wear it's kind of funny looking thing.
Labeled.
You're labeled. And I think corporations do the same in terms of discouraging risk-taking, which leads, because people have the fear of failure. And I remember a client of ours telling their people that we give our people permission to fail, which I think is a wonderful idea, if it was true. Right? We can't only talk it has to be true. Because when we give people permission to fail, they really, and especially in our environment, where you really want crazy ideas, fresh ideas. If you think, well, I wonder if the boss will like that boy, then you're really thinking with a handicap. And every gazillionaire has had so many failures that you don't know about and never heard about. And when you hear of some of them, if you could, you would say, boy, you've got a real notice. You know, how could you do that? So, in terms of failure, and I've had mine in terms of projects. You know, we did a project. We've done a project and won't name it because we probably want to continue it.
Right.
But in the first year, we didn't expect to make money, but we lost more than we had planned.
Right.
And for a tiny company, that could be a little bit
Yeah.
sleep losing.
Yeah.
But the thing about that project is you know, when you meet people, they say, "Wow, that was so good. When you doing it again?"
Yeah.
So you know, it has some benefits. It has some equity. How do you find a way to do
Do
it?
it better.
To do it better and in such a way that you go.
Cost effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of products, you know, at KFC and everywhere I've worked, we've done products that have flopped
Right.
remarkably. You know, you just dust your pants and move on.
Right. Yeah.
So locally and abroad, governments continue to develop regulations
Yeah.
for businesses.
Yeah.
Locally, do the regulations affect your decisions?
Well, if you're talking about regulations like advertising codes and that kind of thing, we have a advertising standards authority that's an industry organization that's self-policing. And I can't say not just us, but the entire industry, we haven't had any major issues to deal with. Self-policing, you know, for example, you can't use the word best. I have the best soap on the market. Because then you have to prove that it's the best.
Yeah.
The scientists measure yours and say it have cleaning power, stuff like that. And if somebody does it, pick up the phone, best comes out of the ad.
Right.
So they say, you know, they may say, customers said we're the best. Our customers. So they find a way.
So we to rephrase
The phrase, or find another way to say best.
Right.
But yeah, no, that really hasn't been a. That really has not. I can't think that has been an issue. I think positive and negative. Obviously, if the economy is in a slump and you know lethargic, well then people will not be spending as much, and maybe you know you'll be under some pressure in terms of the overall market. We don't have access to information of how much everyone has spent on advertising. We in America they can tell you that. In Canada they can. In England we were not a research of data, so we couldn't say that it's going up or down. My own sense is that it is not going down, and if it is growing, that it is growing marginally. But that's really just a guess. The big opportunity for any brand, any company, is share. Even though a market is stagnant or going up or going down, you could still take share. Market share. Still take share from, as people could take share from you. So if the pie is the size of this table and it has gotten a little smaller, that doesn't stop you from taking, increasing your sales within that smaller pie because of what you currently have. Are you with me? So it's, as I said, both positive and negative. It may be sluggish, and that may lead to some stagnancy in terms of sales and volumes of the overall market. But then you always have that exciting thing of going after other people's business. And they get to go after yours as well. So you're defending yours and going after theirs.
You just be more just.
Okay. So I know that Pepper was awarded a gold award, and this was
pertinent to the e-division.
Yeah, digital, yeah.
Yeah, digital. So technology changes all the time. It's a rapid, it's like changing skin tone.
Yeah.
You know, how does this affect, how does it affect your business and your ability to retain that prestigious gold award status?
Right. But I think by and large, I have to credit the Pepper E team, which is led by a very, very bright young lady called Aisha Williams, who I think is probably, now I've done scientific research to say this, you know, in the top 3 or top 5 of digital people in Trinidad. I'll put her up against, against others. She's really is, studied abroad, but more than having the academic foundation, she's really very passionate about the field and keeps up to date. We are in the embryonic stages of digital. We don't have, as yet, a lot of the fancy stuff that the developed markets have. So our digital world, apart from e-commerce, which we are really largely backward on, in terms of people using it, local brands using it, and us having the architecture and the infrastructure, that's what I mean, the infrastructure to accommodate it in terms of, banks that allow you to use Visa and thing online and all the other stuff that you need to do e-commerce. But in terms of digital, we are still in very embryonic stages. And for us, digital is largely social media equals Facebook, plus YouTube, plus Twitter, plus texting, right? And that is not to say that a few people aren't doing more sophisticated stuff. I'm generalizing what I think the market is. So when you refer to exchanging and all that, I think that will come. But we are yet to really fully embrace and understand how to use some of those other lower hanging fruit like Facebook. And it starts with understanding the medium. It starts with understanding that it is not a broadcast medium. If you're not a broadcast medium, go in the papers. It starts with understanding that it's not a quantity game, but a quality game, engagement. So having and boasting that you have 100,000 fans means nothing if only 10 of them are responding to you. And I give those crazy numbers just to make the point, right? The fundamental belief in the new medium, I think we're still at that stage. And it's going to happen more rapidly, it's going to happen quickly in terms of how long people took to come on board. But I still think that we are at that stage for the majority of the market. Some brands are exceptional in that regard. One of them we handle, I have to give a plug, Mario's. They've really embraced it. And what caused that is not us, but the owner. He believed in it. His name is Roger Harford. He single-handedly would have brought up his following to about 30,000, single-handedly, because he was playing in the space. And then he had it over to us, and we brought it to 140,000 in 2 years or so. But it's not a numbers game.
No, it's not.
Look at the engagement. Look at the talking about this.
Okay, so as regards ethics,
Yes.
it's an issue locally.
Yes.
We have a people issue internationally as well. Throughout your career, have you faced ethical dilemmas? Like, have you ever had to make any decisions?
All the time. All the time. But not all the time, not every day. But maybe this goes beyond ethics. But sometimes, I remember suppliers suggesting that they could, when I was on the client side, that they might be able to enhance my salary. You know what I mean? And luckily for me and unlucky for them, that is one way, to have your final conversation with me. I think you have to come a little better than have a little bit more regard. So but that's an extreme.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more subtle. Some time ago we were asked to handle a condom run. We handled it. I'm a Catholic. It's counter to my beliefs. I felt some discomfort, and I was happy when we stopped handling it, because I was doing it and going to church every week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that would be an example of crossing the floor.
Yes. And in terms of like corporate social responsibility,
Yeah.
how does Pepper, how do they respond to that?
We are making huge deposits in that area, beginning with this conversation. No. I didn't mean to put you all on the spot. But I personally believe in that. And we are always helping somebody. Not just at the level of school, but even if a client came to us and we couldn't handle them, we wouldn't just tell them we can't hang up the phone. We'd have a meeting and almost tell them what we think they should be doing. This week I met with a women's group, professional NGO. They had I wouldn't call their name because they're going to rough them up a little bit. They had a very bright idea to do a fundraiser that I guarantee you would have left them with a debt. So I took them off of that path. They would have been paying for that fundraiser for the next 5 years. In fact, they might have go out of business with owing somebody and owing that personally. It was that bad. Apart from being a company, obviously as individual, you're involved in a lot of stuff. I've been the president of Fatima Old Boys Association. I've been a founding board member of FEEL, which is an NGO. I've been involved in the steel band movement. Many steel bands, and including the governing body. And so on and so on and so on. Football, involved in football. So you get to see, I have seen how NGO works from on their side. So I have a lot of time for the fancy word corporate social responsibility. But it's really about being a part of the community.
Yes.
Whenever I hear corporate social responsibility, I am very skeptical because I feel you are doing it to tick the box.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're doing it to tick the box, you will be found out.
Yeah.
If you're doing it for the right reasons, you also will be found out. I would say the same advice that we have on our website. Own one thing. What does own one thing mean? It's focus. It's understanding what you want to be and sticking to that. So, when you were telling me about your 100 businesses, I just wow. A conglomeration can have 100 businesses because they have 100 managers. And because they have the resources to figure out. Recently I heard that Digicel owns the CPL, this football.
Professionally.
I heard that. I don't know if it's true, but I hear that.
Yeah.
True, you hear a rumor.
Well, it's on their website, so.
Oh, they own it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I started to wonder, wow, that's a great idea, on the one hand.
Right.
Sure. If cricket is so important in the Caribbean, why not become cricket?
Right.
Not just be an appendage to cricket.
Right.
I am cricket. I did yourself. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, does it take away from their core business? You know, if they're stretching, I think it would be a bad idea if they try to stretch the people who are doing their mobile to also do cricket. And I think they have the brains and the sense to know that it can't be like that.
Right.
You follow? So, why I mentioned the digital is when people hear one thing, they start to feel that it is physically one thing. But the one thing, there's a whole range of other stuff that could also fit the one thing.
Right.
We are an advertising agency. We also do events.
Right.
We do social media, right? One of my pet areas now that I'm itching to get involved in is customer experience, right? And I have found the franchise that could make it happen, because I feel it is a huge opportunity in Trinidad to become the guru, the go-to place for customer experience and customer service. But as an agency, there would be a portfolio of products and services that you can offer that fits into the one thing.
Right.
And similarly in your own businesses. So that in your business, for example, you may not be thinking about E at all. E. But you know, what if? You know, you could be sitting in a river and giving a lesson in carnage. You know, I was a disaster in maths. Still am. And I went to this fella, and he actually was the guy who did the Daniel Institute in the recent times.
Right.
I'm not that young, but I was going to Daniel, that you know.
Right.
But when he was a school teacher, Daniel,
Right.
and we would go to this big room, a hall in Belmont. And another thing, you would think, well, a hall with 80 or 90 people and one person teaching, how is that possible? He found a way. He had a system where on each table there was a rule, and if you put up a red, people knew what to do. And if you put up a blue, you know, he worked out a way. I mentioned that from how he leveraged from going to, well, you have lessons. It used to be for one person, remember?
Right.
I used to go to Mr. Leha for lessons.
Right.
Mr. Leha would sit with you and go through things. One-to-one.
Yes.
Then it went to Mr. Dan. See how much help I get? Then it went to Daniel with his 100 people.
Right.
And I went from a disaster to a 3 in those days, and for me it was great.
Indeed,
A
yeah.
credit
Yeah.
in O levels.
Right.
And then the new Mr. Daniel now is Skype,
Yes.
right? So there are opportunities in terms of what you do. But I think the common denominator must be, to get back to your original question, the skill set you have and its relevance to the businesses that you are doing. Be careful that you don't stretch yourself, right? That's a skill set for buying paint, the same as a skill set for buying, as a purchaser or procurement person, for buying cosmetics. Principles may be the same, but there may be some material differences. So that is all I would say in terms of answering your question. That make sure that the resources, the combination of skill sets you have, are congruent with the buffet of goods and services that you're seeking to offer.